Hello, hello. Welcome to the parlor. Welcome, Lumina, Dima, Mega Master. Our boy just as fancy in this one? Yes, he does. More of us this week. Yes, more of our boy. I haven't bought anything yet. I've been at work. As soon as I get home, I will. Oh, don't worry about it. But thank you so much for the support. Yeah. Oh, I guess I should have announced. But the pins are online now. Actually, should I save this for after this stream? How about this? Let's do announcements in chat after the storytelling stream, just in case, maybe in the far future, if people are going through these streams and listening to the story in large bits, then they won't have to skip over a large chunk in the beginning. So, all right, let's go ahead and read through this chapter, and then we can do some chatting and announcements. Chapter 5, Mythhaven, Part 3. Originally published October 13, 2021. Having Windsouls again was like greeting an old friend. Azalea arced through the skies of Mythhaven like a shooting star, relishing how the winds rippled through her hair and how the magic sang in her blood. A large dinner and early bedtime last night had mostly recovered her mana well, and she felt good. Now she could soar. Flying with Windsouls was simple in theory. The shoes did most of the work, crafted with an efficient mana quartz that converted mana into a strong, directional burst of wind. But in practice, Windsouls were complicated, volatile, and extremely dangerous. 5 degrees off your launch, and you will hit a building and die, Azalea's instructors had urged at the academy. Flare too strong, and you will fly too high and die. Decelerate too late, you will shatter your legs and die. Too little, too low, too rushed, you'll die, you'll die, you'll die. Death had been the instructor's favorite threat. They'd used it so profusely that it no longer held any meaning for Azalea. She couldn't blame them, though. They were mostly correct. Winsels took years to grasp and a lifetime to master. The first time Azalea had used the mana-powered shoes, she was 14 years old and a fresh cadet at the Knights Academy. The weather was blazingly sunny, unusually hot and humid for an autumn day. Her class filed outdoors after the introductory lecture on Winsels, which had been extraordinarily dry, considering that the topic was on something as revolutionary as flying shoes. Thankfully, they were now let loose to experience it firsthand. Azalea was given a pair of school-issued Winsels that were shared among the students who didn't own a personal pair. They were fairly worn and about 2 sizes too large, so she tore off scraps of fabric and balled them up around her feet to make the shoes fit snugly. Around her, the children from prestigious families flaunted their beautiful custom-fitted Winsels that responded to the lightest touch of mana. They'd been taking private lessons for several summers and were ready to race. It was a sore contrast to the scant handful of students from common families who'd struggled with the entrance fee, let alone specialized equipment and private tutors. Once all the cadets were outfitted, the instructor lined up the class in rank and file and strutted before them, his face deadly grave. "Consider these shoes as shackles," he said sharply. "While you wear them, you will obey my every instruction. Understood?" "Yes, sir!" "Should even one of you step out of line," the instructor said, "the offender shall immediately be expelled and the entire class shall lose its Winsel privileges for the semester. Understood?" Quieter, a little more shaken. "Yes, sir." "Do not ruin this for everyone, and by the mythic stars, do not give me more paperwork." The instructor stepped back, and his stony features softened slightly. "Now for a live demonstration. Wesley Jeppet, will you do the honors?" There was a rustle in the crowd of cadets. A boy stepped out from the throng and marched stiffly to the front. Hushed whispers flitted by him, repeating his name in reverence. Jeppet, Wesley Jeppet. Azalea wasn't sure what all the fuss was for. He was handsome enough, with pleasant, warm features, a shock of neatly kept hazel hair, and a flush of pale red on his cheeks. But he was neither a giant of strength nor a keen strategist with a mind beyond legend, which were the 2 usual attention-grabbing types at the academy. She wondered what he was famous for. She certainly hadn't heard of him. "As many of you know, Cadet Jeppet is highly experienced with Winsels," said the instructor. Azalea was apparently not one of those many people who knew. "Watch his technique carefully, how he prepares his launch, balances the descent, and times his landing. Memorize it, because he will perform a textbook jump." The boy's face flushed a little darker, and he muttered something under his breath. Azalea could barely make out some words that sounded like "hooray" and "no pressure." He stooped down, deft fingers checking the knots on his laces. Apparently satisfied, he tested his weight on one foot, then the other. He didn't look like an experienced jumper. He looked like he wanted to be anywhere but here. "Whenever you're ready, cadet," the instructor said, an expectant gleam in his eye. Wesley sighed quietly. "Yes, sir," he said, and suddenly he was in the air. Had Azalea blinked, she would have missed it. One moment, Wesley was standing on the grass, poised before the whole class. The next, he was hanging in the sky, smooth as a bounding gazelle, swift as a falling raindrop. There had been no hesitation and no build-up. He hadn't drawn out the moment for suspense, or waited until all eyes were on him. He'd flown as naturally as she breathed. Wesley arced up and over, slowing as he hit the apex of his leap. His feet swung forward to guide his descent. Azalea watched his uniform jacket flutter behind him like the tail feathers of a swooping falcon as he fell. He was 3 seconds from impact, then 2, then 1. There was a spark of his mana well, just the barest drop of magic in his Winsels. The shoes released a gentle burst of air, and he landed nimbly, balanced on light feet, knees limber and steady. Silence pervaded the field. Azalea's hands were half raised, ready to clap, but no one moved. Maybe the students were jealous, or maybe they were just stunned. It had all happened so quickly. Now, Azalea smiled as she crescented down to an orange-shingled roof of Gallows Square. A second before impact, she fed a drop of her mana well into the Winsels. The shoes expelled a soft burst of wind mana, and she landed light as a feather. She immediately bounded into another leap, firing her Winsels on launch. This smooth cycle of skipping without pause, her instructors had said, was the advanced technique of spring stepping. Such was the secret of the man who'd saved her as a child, the hidden wings that she hadn't been able to see. Shoes that could climb the sky, walk the clouds. It had seemed like nothing short of a miracle at the time. Perhaps it still was. Mankind may have invented the windsole, but nothing had bidden her savior to be in exactly the right place at exactly the right time. Azalea dropped in front of Wes's workshop. The door was locked, instead posted with a bright notice scrawled in large charcoal-smeared letters. "Hi, Azalea! At least, I assume it's you, since no one really visits me. Anyway, Father summoned me, and you know how it goes. Family business and all. I should be back tonight. If you need food, check the icebox, and if you need emergency repairs, the toolkit's on your chair. Wes." If she wanted, Azalea could touch the lock and nudge it with her mana well. The door would give way for her. Wes had threaded the low-grade mana quartz within to recognize her signature. But there wasn't much point, so Azalea stooped down, slid out the charcoal pencil stowed under the doormat, and drew a little cat face beneath the message. If Wes came back, he'd know she'd seen it. Azalea took the afternoon slow, nabbing 2 more milk buns from Granny Mabel's cart, lingering by the stone fountain with a worn anthology of the mythic stars and their origin tales, resting, revitalizing, and doing everything that the guild manual advised for days not spent in rigorous battle. It was far from an odious task. She liked deployment to feel helpful and full of purpose, but she liked cuddling up with a book on a quiet day even more, feeling every ray of sunlight dance across her skin and lull her into a peaceful nap. Azalea huddled at the lip of the fountain and eagerly flipped through the anthology. She didn't have to. She'd memorized every word by heart long ago. But still, she consumed the sentences as voraciously as an eager child. She read of Esther Carmine. I don't know how to pronounce that. Esther Carmine, a simple young girl who found her little town beset with the plague. She bravely tied on her Red Riding Hood, took up her picnic basket, and trekked through the forest to gather medicinal herbs from the flower fields. She continued these trips for months on end, remaining steadfast to the dangerous attentions of the wily Wolf King. Next came the legend of Asterella, a nobleman's daughter tormented by her cruel stepmother and stepsisters. But she was not consumed with their bitterness. Instead, when her country faced great political turmoil, she adopted the guise of a masked princess and attended the high ball, currying favor with nobles from every nation until she brokered a fragile peace. And last came the legend of Aster Robin, one of Azalea's favorites. He refused to stand by while the rich starved out the poor with their greed. So he pillaged their houses and robbed their storehouses, a gentleman thief with a conduct more honorable than those arrayed in wealth and finery. Azalea's fingers traced the printed letters tremulously, as if she could soak their power from the pages. Bravery, courage, sacrifice. They were favorite lessons for Airlean's children, and beacons of hope for their parents. She wondered what it would be like to leave such a legacy, to earn the title of Aster. If only she had been born like the mythic stars, strong and kind, fearless, always ready to do the impossible. When Azalea looked up, the sun was drooping low in the sky, globs of orange pulling the clouds beneath the horizon. She stowed the book away and took to the skies again, setting course for the main road. If Wes was heading back from his family's estate, she would find him passing through the central square. Azalea landed by the gatehouse and spotted him almost immediately, even in the thick crowd of townspeople returning home from a long day of work. Wes stood out in the juniper finery of a pressed and perfect evening coat, golden traceries stitched on the edges in a lace of vines. It was well trimmed to his figure, lordly and stunning. He never liked it, of course. "It makes me feel like a stuffed pigeon," he complained once, "served up on a dish for everyone to see." It was too dangerous to leap right into the crowd, so Azalea waited until Wes had turned into the cobbled alley that led to Gallows Square. Then she dropped down softly, pulsing her winsoles just before she landed. Wes's face brightened the moment he saw her. His eyes dropped to her shoes. "Your winsoles!" he said breathlessly, clapping his hands together. "Damn, they're gorgeous! How do they feel?" Azalea felt her mouth lifting into a smile. "Would you like to see?" He grinned and sat on the lip of a stone ledge. "Show me." So Azalea showed off, just a little. With little bursts from her winsoles, she bounded across the rooftops in a series of weightless layouts and twists, like an acrobat beneath a sweltering lamp. Such extravagant aerials were hardly combat appropriate, but she had always enjoyed the beauty of dancing. Executing a flawless regalian twist was the closest she could come to the fine art. She stuck her landing after a particularly demanding triple flip, and Wes clapped hard, his eyes brighter than the stars. beautiful, he said in a hushed voice. So much attention to detail in the plate. I can't imagine how careful the ingeniator was with the absorption pins. They're very good shoes, Azalea said proudly, sitting next to him. Hey. He grinned. Shoes are only as good as their user. I'm sure any craftsman would be thrilled to know that their work is being pushed to the limit by a hunter, instead of wasting away in some nobleman's closet. She blushed a little. I'll do my best to make them proud. Babies. Here, anyway. Despite Wes's enthusiasm, Azalea could see haggard signs of a long day out. Sallow shadows under his eyes ran halfway down his face, and his mouth was tight and thin where it was usually dimpled in smiles. She gestured to his rich silken coat and tidied hazel hair. You look different. Wes's ears flushed bright red. What, this? No, this is just... well, it's, Then he slumped. Yeah, it's different. You look nice. Thanks, Wes said glumly. Then he winced. No, I mean, thanks. That's nice to hear. He still seemed down, which was sadly the typical aftermath of a meeting with his family. Azalea bit her lip and retrieved a remaining milk bun from her pocket. It was slightly squashed in its wrapper, but she still held it out. Milk bun? She asked. Wes absently popped open the wrapper, inched out the bun, and bit into it. He chewed for a moment, the sour look in his eyes softening as the sweet custard melted on his tongue. Then he jolted. He looked at the wrapper, then at her, then back at the wrapper, and hastily swallowed his single bite, thrusting the milk bun back at her. This is your favorite, he protested. She pushed it back. I'll buy more. Eat it. Are you... I'm sure. Wes gave a sheepish smile and tucked in the bun. He might not be as obsessive over sweets as her, but hardly anyone would deny a good bit of fat and sugar. What was the meeting about? Azalea asked gingerly. Not much, said Wes. Same old boring stuff. Azalea pondered this for a moment. Wes rarely returned home for boring stuff. Most likely, his family had been invited to some highbrow social engagement, and in order to save face, his mother had screamed, pleaded, and cried for Wes to clean himself up, attend, and pretend that they were a unified family for the afternoon. And because Wes was thoughtful, because Wes was kind, he would have listened to her. He would have pulled on the stuffy suit, combed and styled his hair, and walked into a gaudy room full of primping people who did nothing but fish for lies and sing false praises. He would have withstood that all day, just for his mother. Azalea's heart felt heavy at the thought. Wes didn't deserve such treatment. He was always so considerate. She'd wish she brought more milk buns. Was it really boring? She prodded softly, an opening for Wes to take if he wanted to get some weight off his chest. Wes's gaze flickered to her, then down to his shoes. He sighed, carting his fingers through his perfectly styled hair. Father's still trying to arrange the marriage. Azalea tilted her head. Whose? Mine. Oh. In hindsight, that should have been obvious. Yeah. He kicked out, letting his leather heels swing back and hit the stone wall. We've been through 10 noble families at this point. I don't think he gets the hint. You don't like any of them? They're not bad people, it's just, you know. He leaned his head back and exhaled between his teeth, staring at the darkening sky. I'm not exactly aristocratic husband material. Quirky, bumbling, cooped up in a workshop all day. Families are interested in a tie-in with the Jeppet line, but their daughters aren't. And he glanced quickly at her. There's already a girl who I noticed. Azalea brightened. More than anyone else she knew, Wes deserved to be happy. That's wonderful. You should marry her, and your father will finally stop bothering you. A pregnant pause. She doesn't know I like her, Wes said. Azalea blinked. Oh, why haven't you told her? Wes was staring at her full on now, his honeyed eyes wary and cautious. I have, he admitted. 3 times, actually. Azalea winced. She wasn't personally familiar with the antics of romance, or even friendship, really, but being ignored for 3 confessions had to sting. She sounds kind of dense, she said sympathetically. Maybe you should move on. Wes flinched a little, then laughed. The sound was warm and open, relaxed, like a knot of tension had just been pulled free. Azalea found herself smiling along with him. I probably should, he said, throwing his head back to grin at the sky. But nah, not yet. It's not so bad, you know, having something to look forward to every day. His tone was cheerful, glowing with sincerity, but Azalea still felt a little pang. Poor Wes, love-struck with a clueless girl who didn't give him the time of day. She really should have brought more milk buns. If it means anything at all, she said firmly, I think that you're wonderful. Anyone who can't see that is not very observant. She'd meant for it to be a warm, passionate compliment, but it fell off at the end in a jumble of words. She wished she could be as open and kind as Wes, but she'd never been particularly eloquent. And that's why, she fumbled, plunging on ahead because, oh well, if she was making the shot, she might as well stick it. I'd like for you to be my support. For the Hunters Guild. Wes's eyes whipped to her. His jaw slackened. Support? Support? He repeated. Like the subsidized civilian partner? Oh, of course he would know. The Jeppet family was a lineage of commanders and generals, a house of military achievement and weapon trade, the very founders and owners of the Knights Academy. Wes would be familiar with all the inner workings of the Hunters Guild. He probably knew more than her, even, and she'd memorized the handbook. I wouldn't want to trouble you. Azalea laced her fingers together nervously. I'd never wish to burden you. I know that you already have lots of important things to manage. But you're very smart and good with things, making things, and smart and good in general. It would be an honor if you'd be willing to be my support. And it pays. I mean, they pay you. I don't really, not directly. Oh, this was a mess. She was no good at winning people over. She'd been distinctly unpopular at the academy for a reason. She couldn't read people, nor could she convince them. Never mind, she corrected. I'll figure something out. Maybe forget about... Wes leapt to his feet, his hands crunching into the milk bun wrapper. The greased paper was tearing to shreds at the pressure. Yes, he blurted. Yes, I'd love to. I was just surprised is all. His ears tinged a little red. I'd love to be your support, Zaylee. Oh, whispered Azalea. She straightened, feeling something swoop in her chest. Are you sure? Wes laughed bashfully and sat back down. Honestly, I was hoping you'd ask me. I didn't want to assume, but... Of course I'd ask you, Azalea said, puzzled. Wes was not only her closest friend, born with a heart that could fit all of Airlie, he was also a brilliant inventor, and practically speaking, that made him an advantageous choice. Wes beamed at her. The shadows from his eyes seemed to have completely lifted, which warmed her. Then I won't let you down. Azalea beamed back. You never do, she said honestly. Gosh. He flushed pink to the tips of his ears and stared at her for a long, long moment. I am sorry, that is a typo. Blech. I have an idea. Okay. Done. Save the photos. Alright. You guys get to be part of my proofreading beta streams. Which means, I'm gonna, note down things I have to correct as we read, so sorry. Alright, sorry. He flushed pink to the tips of his ears and stared at her for a long, long moment. Zaylee, he began softly, but right then, the sky blazed with white fire, lightning carving an arc through the clouds. Azalea heard cries of dismay from the city square as the mana lamps blotted out, overcharged with energy. Slowly, they flickered back to life. In the distance, the bell tower began to toll. A surge, Wes breathed. His hand instinctively gripped the sword slung at his hip, even though it was ceremonial, barely more than a nobleman's plaything. Azalea leapt to her feet. She could feel her mana burning in her chest, begging to be released. The storm was a hunter's call, and its birthing pains had just begun. End of chapter! Alright, let's see. Hello Luna, hello Acerola, Ryan. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Oh, Zaylee, our oblivious homegirl. Poor Wes, Zaylee being as dense as a brick. Oh no! Yes. They're very cute. They're very cute. They're my babies. Alright, now for just general chatting and announcements. Next week is the last chapter that was previously posted. It was chapter 6, was where we left off. After that, it will be all new content. So, hey, yo, wait for, look forward to that. Oh, what else was here? The pins. Yes, today we have also launched. Why do I say we? Today I have also launched, the FF14 healer pins. So sorry. Give me a moment. I will take this down for a little bit as I navigate to the site. Here we go. The FF14 pins are now on sale. Ooh-hee. If you like FF14, or if better yet, if you know friends who like FF14, you don't even have to spend the money. You can have your friends spend the money to support me. But yes, these are healer-based pins. White Mage, Astrologian, Scholar, and Sage, and, the Clemency healer. Paladin was from a previous pin test, so I just decided to sell it as well. But yes, they will be all the healer pins will be ready. It's always those little types we don't catch until we say them aloud and go, hold on a second. The typos, right? That's why, in a way, it's very good for me to read on stream. I know it kind of brings out the immersion a little bit, but if I were to do a dramatic reading, I'd probably pre-record it rather than reading it live, since I tend to stumble over my words. So, maybe in the future there'll be a refined reading of published via podcast or something with sound effects or whatever you young folks like to listen to these days. I want to know what Wes's 4 past confessions were. The poor boy. Give him a break. I do know I did plan one of them. I don't think it ever surfaces in the book though, so I can just tell you, I guess. He did use the L word at one point though. He did say I love you, and she was like, wow. You finally learned how to make friends. I'm so proud of you for trusting people and making yourself vulnerable. It was basically how the exchange went, and he was like, oh, she didn't realize. I didn't even notice my own typo until you said it. Yup, that's why. But it's kind of fun this way. I'll call it a little more organic. So the plan going forward is Airlean Tales will, I'll go back. Not that, please. No! Please, touch. Okay, here we go. Airlean Tales. The plan is that I'll post the chapters actually on Thursdays. But I will read on Fridays, because it's usually better for me to not worry. I can't schedule posts with this site, so usually I don't want to, if something goes wrong, I want to have a few hours of buffer to troubleshoot before I stream. So new chapters will be posted on Thursdays, and the read-alongs will all happen on Fridays. Also, how do I put this? Before I had a commenting system on the site, but it will cost $100 a year just to have comments on the site, and I would rather not spend the money. So instead, I just figured, most people aren't really interacting or connecting with the medium through the comments anyway. So we do have the built-in remark.as. It's just that it requires a write.as pro account, which is kind of dumb, but. So I don't really expect any activity to be here. I don't know. Maybe I should just keep the commenting system, $100 a year for free affirmation. $100 a year for affirmation, I guess. Azalea, why? Oof, F's for Wes, F for best boy. It's pretty rough. They have a great history though. There will be some flashbacks in future chapters that give a little bit of insight into their academy days, and those are some of my favorite scenes. So I hope you guys enjoy them when they pop up. A chapter channel on Discord for our thoughts and comments. Yes, there is one. There's a I think it's a spoilers channel. Oh, I don't know if it's that clear, but like, it's, you know, I expected it to not really have any activity because we're still on old chapters, so maybe new chapters. I'll be like, hey, you guys, if you wish to discuss, you can do so on the Discord. Meanwhile, commentary on YouTube will cost just one registered account and 10 minutes of waiting to comment live. Exactly! Or just any registered account on YouTube. Maybe that's what I should do. Is there a way to link YouTube comments? Spoiler story discussion having its revival ritual. True. I guess I'll post something in that channel. Like, how about on the day of a new chapter? We'll do that. We'll definitely do that. I'll post like a GIF. Or like a really crappy 5-minute doodle. It'd be like, I live! Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. As I took for granted, like, all the webtoon.com and all these serial places just having, like, comments for free. It is not free. It costs server. It costs server space, and it's expensive. I don't know. Because I also do kind of want comments native on the site. Decisions only I can make, so. Alright, well. I've been procrastinating on ending the stream for a little bit, but thank you so much for joining me. Always a pleasure to have you guys here. See some familiar names. All around me are familiar faces. Okay. And then, I'll just go over the next week's schedule really quick before we end. There will be collab stream. Collab Don't Starve was returning with Elphase. I think we're gonna start a new file though, because since I have it working on my PC now, we can use mods. So we're probably going to do a heavily modded run. Lots new. I mean, the base game has a lot of features, but I think we're gonna probably do modded characters. I don't know what theme yet. We're gonna figure it out. We're probably just gonna play. Yeah, so we'll do Don't Starve. And then we're gonna have likely either a remote stream or a DGS stream or a Breath of the Wild stream. We're gonna have some stream or another. And then we're gonna have an art stream where I finish the business card art and then Airlean Tales read off for the last old chapter of the book. And from there on, it is new content every week. Buckle up. Buckle up, guys. It's gonna be fun. Alright, thank you so much for joining me. I will go ahead and send you off. So, have a most wonderful day, a most wonderful weekend. I will see you all next week. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for the story. See you next week. Bye, guys.